Welcome to today's episode. I am beyond excited to have Tahsha Renee here today and talking about sacred rage healing. And welcome in. Tahsha Renee is the owner of Sisterhood of Sacred Fire, where she is the celestial founder of the world's first and only women's sacred rage program and in-person retreat helping women heal through their sacred rage. Y'all, this conversation is going to heal your ancestral wounds and light your soul fire. So Tahsha, thank you so much for coming in today. And I would love for you to share how you shared this journey with me, and I love how you said it, and I'll save it to hear it from you again. But I would love for you to share what is, your journey to communing with sacred rage.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm just any chance I can get to talk about this work, because we are the world's first, really, I see it's trending right now, right? I do see women, thank you, by the way, coaches out there who are doing, following your gut instincts to do a class on this, or do a master class, or even talk about it, or take the classes yourself. I see it starting to trend, but I've been doing this for over a year, and it's been a really rocky road, because this isn't take a money course where you're going to make $1 million. And you're like, yeah, sign me up on that shit. It's
right.
I have to step into my fire of transformation. What do you mean? It's not, doesn't always feel like it's going to be the most fun thing to do. Right. So I just appreciate the opportunity to talk. And if anyone else that's watching has a podcast or any other thing where they'd like to have me speak, please get a hold of me or Nicole. I would love to keep spreading the message. So yes, my own, most of us coaches, right, end up doing our work because we have our own stuff. And I definitely have that story. For me, I grew up in a household of 3 other siblings who didn't really need as much as I did. And if they did, they just didn't talk about it because they probably saw me do it and were like, we're not doing that. But they very much were different beings than I was. I definitely, and I'm sure, again, you guys will relate to this. You grew up feeling like an alien in my own family because I just, was different. And I'm a psychic and I'm a healer, and I was a psychic and a healer even at a young age, and I didn't know and nobody knew. So I've also always had this type of personality where I'm very open. I don't have a problem speaking my truth. I don't have a problem asking for things. Confrontation does not bother me. So I would ask my father for attention because I wanted that. I wanted to spend time with him, and I wanted that. And he rejected me every single time except for 2 that I can think of. And sometimes I would spend 2 weeks, trying to get the courage up to ask him to spend time with me, knowing he was probably going to say no. And over time, with that happening, I was pretty pissed, and I would get mad anyways. When pain would hit me, I would get angry. But as I got into my teenage years, it was rageful, and it was, fuck you, I hate you, you don't love me. And the way that they reacted, because they didn't know how to handle me, was, why are you so sensitive? The whole world doesn't revolve around you. You're grounded, that was like my middle name, you're grounded, constantly. And so I unfortunately took that into my adult years and my relationships, because as we know, when you don't heal things, they just get, reactivated through other people, recreated, and home life. And so I never harmed anybody, but I did throw shoes through windows, and I punched walls and screamed, and and then on top of that, I people pleased. So I was doing this a lot. Whenever I'd meet people, it was overly nice and overly, how can I help you? And really recovering people pleaser. So I still catch myself doing these things. I've still had things even in the last just couple of years where I've had to realize, oh my God, I'm in that situation. So I say people pleasers are the most pissed off people on the planet, because
that's what I was just thinking. I was like, I'm not going to say it, but yeah.
How can I help you? How can I help you? I'm behind it. I need to talk. My voice is important. I don't want to do this, but I feel like I have to, because I feel like if I don't, then you're not going to love me. Right. Mm-hmm. So we just stop, and we stop, and we stop, and we stop. And guess what happens when we keep stopping? It comes out. Right. Or it comes out in physical things. So I often have people say to me, why are you so angry all the time? And I'd be like, what are you talking about? I have a smile on my face. And it would piss me off even more, right? Because you're trying so hard and people are just seeing that you're faking it. And so fast forward, I have a very big story. So we'll just fast forward into, basically 2020, November 2020. I have been doing a lot of inner work for a really long time. And so at this particular day, I was literally being the scientist I feel like I am to my life, and looking around my life where I was living and trying to figure out what my responsibility was and where I was at, because I firmly believe that, and started to realize I was still really pissed that even by myself, in a room by myself, I still didn't feel comfortable getting angry about things with no one even around. And that to me was disturbing. I caught myself being like, oh, well, I'm still angry about it. And then all of a sudden I would catch my thought interrupting that day of like, oh, but what would somebody think if they, and I was like, who the fuck is that bitch? She hasn't been around in a long time. Like, I don't know who that, where are you? Where have you been? So then I was like, okay, well, let's give her a voice. And I was like, I just think I need to just think about all the things that made me angry and allow myself to just be pissed. Not because there's a spiritual reason for it, not because I understand why somebody did something because of their own pain, but like, I just wanted to be fucking mad. And so I did. Started walking around my house, and it was about a 20-minute process because I have a lot of shit to be fucking pissed off about. And so I was just thinking about it, and I'm not kidding. This this tornado type effect was happening where it was almost like it was an out of body experience. I was like, whoa, something's happening. And I knew enough at that point to be like, just go with it, right? So I get scared of it. Well, I mentioned I'm a psychic. I don't see spirit. I don't hear spirit, but I do hear things in my head at times, people talking, and it's not me. And I know who it is. My ex-boyfriend had passed over 2 weeks before this happened. And I was walking around in my kitchen. I got to the stove and I stopped because I heard him say, let it all out. And in that moment, I grabbed my stove and I let this scream out that I tell people, came from my ancestors, okay? Because this did not just come from me. And I let out a scream that's just never come out of me. I've screamed a million times, obviously. I just told that story, right? This was something else. And when it came out, I was blown away. I felt lighter. I felt freer. I felt happier. I was like, something just happened. And my whole life is on Facebook. I'm super transparent and open. And so in that moment, my first thought was, I gotta get on Facebook. I gotta do a live about this. I gotta tell other people they have to do this. They have to experience this. I was like so excited. And so I get on there and you see it in the live. I look up and I go, oh, I'm supposed to do a program around this. And I was like, well, that's weird. And 2 women on the program, one was a woman named Trinity, who's no longer, she did the first program we did that wasn't right for the program. And then Jacqueline Faith, who's the other half of the program, who's also my best friend in the entire world. These women are very new to my page at this point. And both of them, Jacqueline never does stuff like this, by the way. Both of them said right there, I think I'm supposed to help you. Actually, I think Jacqueline might be privately, but Trinity was like, I think I'm supposed to help you. And they're both very, very psychic women. And so we did. We decided to go ahead and make a program. And what's funny is I always laugh about this because in our times I tell it still blows me away. We were like, okay, well, let's just put together like a 3-day weekend thing. We're just gonna have women come together and we can be angry together. Be kind of I was almost like a girl sleepover type feeling that I was having. Like, let's just give people a place to like be pissed because nobody has this going, right? Oh yeah, no. This was way, way bigger than that. So the women, just like day 1 or day 2, were having physical detox, every single one of them. Throwing up, headaches, chills, anxiety, can't sleep, full body aches. I mean, all of them. And we were like, okay, well, that's kind of weird, right? So we were like, oh, it's probably a fluke. So we did another 3-day. Guess what? Same shit happened again. So we did a 4-day, same shit. So we're like, we can't keep doing this to women's bodies. Like, we cannot keep doing this. So we made it into a 10-day and put Reiki and hypnotherapy in between the days. And that fixed the problem. There was no more detox problems. Then we realized 10 days was a lot because it was 5 days, weekend off, 5 days. These classes are 1 to 4 hours, depending on who's talking. So yeah, then we moved it into the 3-month, which we just got done doing. That's too long, we realized, because all the results are happening so fast. So now we have a 2-month happening on January 10th. I still feel like it's going to be too long. whatever. And then on April, I think we're going to do a 1 month and keep it at a 1 month, and it'll be weekly instead of bi-weekly. And then we have the in-person retreat that's happening on May 2nd in Lake Tahoe.
Amazing. I used to live in South Lake Tahoe, so I think we talked about, I'm not sure if we talked about that, but
I don't think we did. Like, probably the vortex of healing. Did you know that?
There's definitely, I mean, every time I go there, I'm like, something is magical. I mean, it's just so gorgeous there in general for the nature experiences and stuff. How fun. Yeah, this is amazing. And, you know, with the work that I do, it's all very much around how we hold emotions in our body, and anger specifically is such a hard one for women, where I think grief or crying is more difficult for men, just based off societal things. And I think this is such an amazing experience for women to have, where it's a sacred space to go and express safely an emotion that isn't directed at someone, it's not blaming someone, but it's getting to actually just experience and move that emotion through your body so that you can tap back into your truth, your power, and not have that thing just festering. And I love some of what you, well, I love all of what you said, but there was a certain piece that you were saying around this feeling angry, but then like, oh, what if somebody sees it? Or, you know, even when you're by yourself. And it's interesting because, and there was another piece where you're like, but women, like, you know, are kind of afraid to go into these pieces of themselves. And I experience that a lot with the coaching I do, where people are like, oh, that sounds really heavy, or like a lot of work. And I'm like, you know what's heavy and more work is you carrying this shit around all the time and not actually processing it and letting it the fuck go. And that takes so much more energy, and it ages you faster, and it puts weight on your body, and all of these different things that can keep a woman from feeling like in her like vitality and radiance and all of these things. So with that being said, in the sacred rage healing, I love that you guys have, like, you know, over time too, been like, okay, we need little pauses and spaces in between so people's nervous systems don't like blow out. When women are tapping into their rage, in your experience and with the women you work with, what have been some of the biggest things that that people have kind of been like, or women have been like, oh, I don't know if I can go there, like it's not okay because it wasn't safe when I was a kid, or, you know, like where they feel so uncomfortable with their anger and rage?
Well, it's different for every woman. This is where it gets kind of sticky, right? Because I have women come in who are clearing deep sexual trauma. That's one end of the spectrum: deep sexual trauma, abuse, you know, physical abuse, all these things. And then I have the women who are just people pleasers.
Yeah.
And they're people pleasers because of obviously damage that's been done, usually by narcissistic abuse, the damage from a caretaker, or they grew up with a parent that's an alcoholic that maybe wasn't abusive to them, but when they spoke up or did anything, you know, they just felt like they couldn't because that person, that caretaker may get violent with them. Yeah. So I think, you know, I had one woman, to give you a specific example. And by the way, I don't mention women's stories or women's names unless I've been given permission. That's one thing I'm really a big stickler on. Especially
I'm big about that too. I always ask permission.
So I just
consensual.
Make sure I say that out loud, because, you know, I don't want you thinking that if you came into my program, I would just tell your story without your permission, because I would never do that. Yeah. But one woman, her name's Lindy, she was the love and light person. You know, she like said everything with a smile on her face like this. And even the first day she goes, I'm afraid to show my anger. I'm afraid to feel all of that. And she's got a big smile on her face. And I go, well, why is that? She goes, because I think I'm going to kill somebody if it comes out. I feel like it's going to overrun me and I'm not going to be able to stop it. And all of us were kind of like staring at her at first. And then we all just started cracking up laughing, because I was like, who else feels like they want to fucking murder somebody? Anybody else want to raise their hands? And we just became this thing, like she just needed to say it out loud. She needed to be like, I needed to do that. So then on the last day, we did this is a 10-day program. And the last day, we had everyone, one of the sacred rage exercises is to literally beat something up. So you could break plates. Some women took hammers to couches and screamed and yelled things. And like Lindy decided to set her camera up way over here and get on her bed and start beating the fuck out of her mattress.
It's always a good
And
time.
we were all just like,
it's always a good time. I recommend that
so
to my clients.
awesome. And that portion, we sit back and support you. We sit back and watch and support you because everybody's just like, oh, it's so awesome to watch that. Anyway, so she got done and she comes back and she's breathing heavy. And I was like, how do you feel? She goes, oh my God, I feel amazing. And I was like, you scared of your anger anymore? And she goes, fuck no. She goes, I'm gonna do that so much often. And I was like, yeah. And then I had the intuition, the message to ask her, was your dad violent? And she goes, he was very violent. And I said, is it a possibility that you didn't want to let your anger out because that was so scary when he let that out, that you didn't want to become him, and two, didn't want to feel those feelings of fear you felt when he was angry? And she goes, oh my God. She's like, yes, that's exactly what it is. So a lot of it is usually, I'm afraid of this because I've seen it in a person I'm supposed to feel safe with. Or I let mine out, and that person that was supposed to make me feel safe to let my emotions out made me feel shameful for it or fearful. They may have acted in violence to you being angry. So there's a lot of that, a lot of women that are kind of like, or it's so repressed that I hear this a lot too. I just not that angry of a person.
It's like, if you're not angry, you're not alive, because there's a lot of things to be angry about. I'm just saying.
Are the most pissed besides the people. I bet you're a people pleaser saying that, and you're fucking mad. I guarantee it. So yes, and I do have women who are coming to the program who are like, well, there's the woman who has the massive the big thing, right, that they're going through, and I only have this, what I consider to be a small thing. So I don't feel like I can actually open my voice, or don't feel like I fit in with these people. Right. And what women have to understand is it doesn't matter if it's a big thing or a small thing, it's big to you. Right. It traumatized you to the point where you feel like you can't even speak up about it. Like you can't even say it out loud to women who want to hear it from you. Right. And over time they do. They all end up saying it and they all end up fine. But there have been women who've been like, oh, well, in the chats, we have a signal chat that's open before, during, and after, kind of like Voxer, but it's open all the time to everyone. And excuse me. So I had a woman who really had a hard time with that. She was like, well, so-and-so is talking about their big thing, and there's 50 messages, and I just feel like I can't come in and just say what I'm feeling, because I feel like, and I'm like, look, you don't have to support nobody in that. Nobody's expecting you to support anyone, and you can just interject at any time. Nobody's going to think you're selfish. Nobody's going to give a shit. And we want to hear you. And what ended up happening is when that woman started speaking up, the woman with the massive sexual trauma was like, oh my God, thank you for saying that. Me too. I didn't even know that anybody else felt that way. So it doesn't matter. Your stuff's the same. You're there for the same reason.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's something that's interesting about anger too, especially with women, because, the angry woman is a stereotype to the bitch, the crazy one, where when she is direct, clear, confrontational in the respect of a woman, or is legit angry about whether it's social justice, human rights, activist, whatever that looks like. And it's so stigmatized. And I think there's a piece where our femininity has almost been attacked in that, where it's like, oh, if you're like this, then you're not feminine because you're not sweet and nice and polite.
Well, because it's been seen that men can be that way and women can't. So now you're masculine.
Right. Because if a man's like that, people are like, oh, he's a leader and he's so attractive and he speaks his mind. And if a woman does it, they're like, who the fuck? Even women, and women do this to each other. Women do this to me a lot, where they're like, ew, who is this girl? And it's like, you're welcome. You'll thank me later kind of a thing. And that used to be really painful for me, because I've always had that experience. And that was a sisterhood and, motherhood wound kind of stuff that I went through at a younger age, where I just always felt like women didn't like me, because whether it was for looks or for the things I said, or they just didn't like me and made sure that I and everyone else around knew or whatever. But it's just an interesting element where I feel like women tend to project this onto each other more than the actual men. I mean, there's obviously a scale and a range of this, but in this healing process and the work that you do, getting to hold that space and see other women in their sacred rage, and getting to express yours from a place without judging it, without making it mean anything, without, like you said, with the bigger, as we label them, abuse or things versus that woman that's like, I don't even want to say it because mine's not as bad. It's like, no, that's a judgment. Like, this is where we get to express that. And I'm curious your thoughts also, where I believe that anger is an activator. I think it lets us know when a boundary has been crossed, when we need to speak up, when change needs to happen, because it's a fire starter.
It's creative.
It's creative. It's that the ignition, kind of a jump starter thing. And what I've noticed is, I think some of the reason women don't want to do this work is because they're like, if I let go of this anger, I feel like they think they're either not going to feel anything, or they're going to lose the
fire.
Like if I'm not angry about this and holding on to that anger, even though it's underneath and seething, and they're like people pleaser and on the surface and to the public or online or to their family, outside, but at home, it's a different reaction. Where if they actually let go of that, then that means they're forgiving their abuser, or they're not standing up for what they think is right. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So this is a big one, because this is what happened to me, is basically what you're talking about is your anger gets alchemized. Right now, your anger, even if it's being used for fuel of some sort, right? Because I used to feel like that. I'm like, well, if I lose my anger, then I'm going to lose my edge. I'm going to lose my my thing that people do find attractive in me, which is my boldness and my my fire. People are always like, you're so fiery. And it's like, that doesn't go away. That's an actual personality trait that will not go away. Okay,
it's a part of you. Yeah.
So the anger, it actually becomes. You become more of those things, to be honest, because now they're coming from a space of balance instead of imbalanced. So right now, when you don't have your anger alchemized, which is to go through the process of doing the sacred rage like work, it's fake protection right now. Yes. It's fake everything. It's you get too close. If you happen to touch on the one subject or try to ask me the one question, or you get too close to my heart where all that penis, my anger is fake protecting me. It's going to fake protect you. It's going to be like, it's going to pop off. It's going to say evil stuff. It's going to self-sabotage you, because it's like, no, I'm trying to protect you. So I'm going to burn you. If the dragon opens up its mouth and all the fire comes out at once, and it's burning everything down. Okay. Yeah. And not for creativity, but for destruction.
It's for pure destruction, like Kali energy.
Yeah. I'm gonna continue. You're trying to talk to me about that again. So you can't handle the big emotions you can't handle.
Yeah. And this is I love this too, and what you just said, because I think in the divisive nature of the world that we're in, especially the last 2 years, specifically, pick a topic and there will be like one side against the other. Yeah. And I noticed, because I have sexual abuse in the past, that when the whole Trump election was going on, I got triggered, and hindsight wise, now I can look back and be like, oh yeah, I was really pissed at the women voting for him, regardless of whatever, because he has allegations, and I think he's a douchebag anyway, but like that's here nor whatever, that's my opinion. But I was getting angry and saying, like, if you voted for him, like, unfriend me, because we're, and it really offended a lot of people. Like, I had family members who voted for him, and they were just like, are you serious? Like, are you just gonna cut us out of your lives? And at the time, like, I talked with them and I was like, look, like, these are the reasons why, and over these specific reasons, like, it was a conversation that needed to happen for me to be like, okay, like, people have their own reasons that I don't agree with, and it doesn't make them a bad person. And it was a little bit of a healing process for me too, to own where I was getting on and saying things that in my anger and in my like righteous anger, thought I was being right, thought I was like being a leader and like saying the things to wake people up, and all of those things that we try and do and be, and leading and healing and truth. And there's an aspect where on the other side of this, and even what we're seeing now with like mandates for vaccines and all these things, where people are taking their anger and their righteousness and, like you said, like torching other people and canceling them and creating this stuff where it's like, it's not in a healthy way around what we're actually angry or afraid about, and getting to have conversations with people to actually like understand, instead of like othering people.
Yes.
And I think people use their righteous anger around othering to keep themselves safe, when really it's not keeping them safe. It is creating isolation, which is like the most harmful thing for humans to experience, is isolation.
Yeah. So when your anger is alchemized, again, what happens is you're able now to hold both paradigms.
Yep.
Whereas before it was strictly you support Trump, which means if you support Trump, you're saying that it's okay what happened to me, it's happened to other women. Yeah. And that means you don't support me.
Yep.
Whereas when you've alchemized your anger, you can then weigh it and say, okay, this is a political thing. Does it really mean that? Like, if like, did that person not support me in my sexual trauma? Does that person say bad things about women who've been sexually traumatized? That's a whole different thing. Right. So if they haven't, and you know that for a fact, it's just a political thing, right, you're now able to let them do that and be able to hold your real truth paradigm, which is like, that doesn't really go in there. So you're able to hold those strong emotions instead of it just being the one emotion.
Yeah.
Right.
And this,
so,
yeah.
So we had a lot of, in the 10-day one that we did, what was that, September, I think, or July or September. The women, there was a lot of stuff, a lot of patriarchy. Britney Spears was going through her thing. The gymnast, Simone, was going through her ordeal. And there were women who were literally beating up their couches and hitting things because they were pissed off at what's happening to these women. Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of anger towards these things that we do take out on other people because it's reflecting our own stuff. So yeah, to go along with the whole alchemized anger thing and how that can work for you once you do take a program like this and do the shadow work of it, is it took me months to realize this, but I had that sacred rage scream experience for myself in November. And then in December, I was like, you know what? 2021 me doesn't give into irrational fear anymore, or get in my own way. Well, I was dealing with almost 15 years of severe agoraphobia, which is where you can't leave your house. And accompanied with that were horrific panic attacks. So I would go to leave my house. If I got too far from my house, I would feel like I was passing out without passing out. At this point, I hadn't left my house for the longest in that whole time period. It's been 6 months since I left my house.
Do you know what kind of brought that on? Was it just like,
yeah. Oh yeah, that's a whole nother story.
Oh, okay. You're like, we'll save that for another interview.
It's a whole nother podcast. But yeah, basically a dark night of the soul, ex-boyfriend trauma, and I went through 3 months of extreme panic attacks every 2 hours, 24 hours a day, even in the middle of the night for 3 months straight. Yeah. And I just kind of, went through a pretty ugly thing. But yeah, that made me agoraphobic. I was afraid to leave the house, do anything. So I just decided all of a sudden I had the ability to be like, I've done this for almost 15 years. I know what another 15 years is going to get me. I mean, I'm going to be 40 at this point. I'm going to be 45 in March. I don't want to keep living like this and be this way at 60. Are you joking me? So I went to work and it took me 2 months and I was terrified. I would go to leave the house shaking, crying, but like would not give into that fear. I was like, I'm not doing it. And what I noticed is that I would get into the car and get halfway down the road and the anxiety I was like trying to film myself so people could see my journey. Oh, I'm trying to heal myself with this. And I would be like, sorry guys, there's no fucking anxiety. I don't know what's going on. And then I was like, after like, I don't know, about a month of that, I was told my friend who just was picking up and taking me on these trips. I was like, let's go hit a freeway. Because freeways were like the nemesis. You can't get off the damn freeway and turn around and go back home. Like even talking about it does still like freak me out. And she's like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, okay, we hit the freeway. I'm filming myself and I'm like, sorry guys. Fuck, I don't know. Nothing. So then I sold all my shit a month later. It took me 2 months, by the way, no medication, no therapy, just my mind. And I sold all my shit and I packed all my stuff and moved to Hawaii for 3 months, not even knowing where I was going to be living. Terrified of plane rides, got on a plane ride laughing during turbulence. Months later, I realized it's because I had this sacred rage scream that now alchemized instead of it being like fear, because again, that's fake protection, right? So the anger's like, we're not going to try that. And if I would try, I'd get pissed. I thought, okay, I'm going to do this today. I'm going to pummel through it. I'm going to do it. I can help everybody else, but how can I help myself? And I would get mad. And then I realized that now that it was alchemized, there was the anger as courage, as bravery, as goal setting, as not giving up on myself, as being like the hero of my own damn story. Like I was not going to let myself, that anger was not going to let myself get in my own way again and not let me live.
Yes. Yes.
So
it becomes your holy fire. I love it.
it does become your holy fire, girl.
Yeah.
Becomes a fire of transformation. So yeah, yes, you're walking into that fire, right? You're walking straight up into that shit. And it's kind of like, I mean, I don't know if you guys watched Game of Thrones. A lot of people did. Do you remember the part where she walks into the fire and she walks out unscathed? It's
So
the same
good.
shit.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're walking into that, but you're in an environment where you're being held, where you're safe to let it go, where I don't care how, you cannot be big enough in your trauma response. You cannot be ugly enough. Your story cannot be ugly enough. It cannot be too big for us. Is it ugly and gross? Awesome. We want that.
Yeah.
Yes,
Like bring it. Yeah.
We're like fucking sin eaters. We're like goddess Kali as a whole. We're just like, want to take all your darkness in. Like, just fucking give it to us. We want it. Right.
I love it.
We're really, just trying to let women know that, like, once that anger comes up and that first sacred rage scream detox, we do it a couple times during a long-term thing, longer program. And so when that first time it comes up and out of you, what's happening is it's burning off. And yes, guess what happens? The pain is going to come out. The sadness is going to come out. But what we've noticed with every woman for over a year of doing this, it goes out like this. Yeah. It doesn't stick around.
Because you're letting it out. You're letting it move. You're letting it move.
It's moving out.
Yeah.
It's moving out of you. Yes. And it doesn't come back. One woman had, I think I told you this too when we talked, but one woman had TMJ in her jaw for over a year. She couldn't sleep without a night guard and without medication for over a year. 2 days after the program, fucking gone, never came back.
That's what happens with my clients too. The emotions get stuck in the body and it's like, let's move it out.
Yes. And the reason why there was full detox issues with the first 3, right? Because the shit's in your fucking body. Yeah. I promise you, if you don't, listen, I don't even care if it's me. If you are hearing me talk about this work and you're like, oh my, okay, I'm really scared. I'm fucking scared, but shit, my something's telling me I need to do this, but I'm super scared. There's a reason for that. And if you don't do it, it's going to turn into physical fucking illness. Yeah. Mark my words, if it's not already.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and it's not to like fear monger anyone, but it's just a reality of like long-term holding patterns, whether this is stress, emotions, the way you sit, if you're at a computer, it's a pattern. And when you learn how to release instead of hold, it frees your body to be spacious and expand. And yes. And
the thing is this is one of the things I've been hearing recently. I just did a video testimonial with Sarah, who talks about this, and Erin did too recently. I did another one with her, but one of the things I've been hearing a lot of lately is that the women are like, I have never been in a group program where, first of all, everyone gets hot seat coaching. Okay, most group programs, you're going to have a couple people, like this classes are going to be up to an hour or so. They're going to keep it, whatever. And there's only a couple people they're going to use. Well, no, I don't do that. And that's why my classes are 1 to 4 hours. Not that you have to be there the whole time. Nobody's saying you have to do that. But I want every woman, because the women coming in have been told their voice doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. They've been told they can't talk. They're on eggshells. They don't know. I won't do that. So it's important that everyone talks, but I hear constantly, wow, I've never felt so safe in such a safe container. On the first day I had Sarah, who was like intimidated by Jacqueline first, because Jacqueline's like stunningly fucking alien fucking beautiful. Like, it's ridiculous. And yet she has chronic pain in her body 24/7 that nobody would ever know that she carries because she never lets on. But there's like Lyme disease and nerve degenerate stuff and like cysts in her neck that if she moves the wrong way, she could literally be paralyzed for her whole life. You would never know. And so when this stuff starts coming out, and Sarah specifically was like, I was intimidated by Jacqueline. And then I hear these women start telling their powerful stories, and she's crying because she feels connected. On the first day, she's like, every time I've been in a class, it's like women are like catty and
scary and mean. Yeah.
And there's like this thing of what let's be prim and proper and whatever and be perfect. Perfectionism is a huge one. Yeah. So you're in an environment that has, from what I've heard, has not existed until this. I was like, oh, this isn't normal, because I haven't taken group programs. And so I'm like, this isn't normal. And they're like, fuck no, this isn't normal. Like, no, it's not. And so what happens when you feel safe enough to tell your stories and tell the things that are coming up, because you're going to have stuff keep coming up, you get to work through it in the moment. Yeah. Jacqueline and I are available in the chat constantly. I'm reading through, listening to every single thing that's coming through and responding. If you don't feel comfortable in the chat, you get to come to us in private, no extra cost. We make ourselves completely available. There is so unlimited support. This is the place to get it done. If you've been afraid to do it and you're feeling called to, this is the fucking place.
This is the place. Yeah. And there's such a big element of this. I know this was like the biggest healing piece for me in my journey, and the work that I do with women and that you're doing is this loving, celebrating, and honoring and holding the space for the emotion, the ugliness, and the pieces of you that we all have pieces of ourselves that we don't want other people to see, that we want to hide, that whether it's a past thing that we did, whether it's a part of our body, whether it's an emotion we don't like about ourselves, like jealousy or anger or whatever. But it's like when you can actually like love that part of you and like really accept and honor it without trying to change it and letting it move through, it is literally life-changing. And that's why like I was so excited when we connected, because I was like, this is like a piece of the work that I do. And I was like, I need to amplify this because women need these resources, whether it's now or the next time you guys do a retreat, and just knowing that that's an option. And if anyone listening, it feels called to this, it's like letting your courage be greater than your fear. And if you feel called, even if you're like, oh, I don't know, but I really want to, it's like the soul pulling versus the fear, like trust that those are the baby pieces where you start to learn how to trust yourself again, and where you stand in your courage.
Well,
and that's just follow that.
That's just it. It's like, you're probably not going to feel the courage, bravery part right now. You're just probably not. So you got to tap into something else. You got to be like, okay, if you're still listening right now, first of all, you're somebody that should be talking to me. Lock the fuck out. Let's have a conversation. I don't do sales calls. I don't believe in the shit. I don't do marketing. I don't do email ads. We talked about this before. I don't do typicals. I hate sales. I can't stand it. I call my stuff connection calls. I give you information on the program. I hear a little bit about your story to see how it will actually correlate to you, if it will even correlate to you. Normally will. And then we get talking about prices, and then I let you get off the phone. If you don't want to do anything at that point, we go, and I don't ever even contact you again about it. Like for me, I've been doing it for so long now that like the women who are meant to come in here will find a way. So if you aren't available to contact me right now and you're like still like, man, I don't know, I promise you're going to go check out my page. I promise you shit's going to be shown to you from some other angle, some other thing, and it will keep showing up to you, even if it's not in this program that you want to sign up on, which starts on Monday. It will happen. It will be led to you if it's meant for it to happen for you. So I will see you soon.
You're like, I'll see you there, bitches. Yeah. And that's where I feel very similarly. I mean, I obviously like, I create a lot of content and connect and collaborate and have conversations. And there is a piece around like, in the way that I purchase things too, like when I know I want something, I just go buy it. I don't need to be convinced. I don't need to like, sometimes I'll have questions that maybe like, but I'm on the same boat where I'm like, you either know it's for you or not. And like, I'm not trying to convince you otherwise. So it's like, take it or leave it.
I can only take on 10 women at a time for my group program because I allow everybody to talk and speak. Right now there's 4 spots available. I have 2 women. One of them, I know she's going to sign up because she got led in such a divine way that there's no fucking way she's not going to sign up. And another woman who I'm getting ready to talk to, that's going to leave 2 spots. And another woman who's been on the fence, she's like, I'm one of those people that signs up like on the last damn day. So
there are always the last minute hoes coming in.
Yeah, at least possibly 1 spot open. 1. And I will not take more than 10 because I want to give everybody the opportunity to speak and do their things. And it's important to me that I be able to give everyone the healing they need. So yeah.
I love it. Well, with that being said, I'm going to pop in all of your contact information in the chat, but let them know one more time when it starts, what it is, and the deets. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. I was going to say, I'll just tell the details. So basically it starts on Monday. It's a 2-month program. It's bi-weekly. So it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Times have not been decided yet because we have 2 women from Australia, 1 woman from South Africa, and another one from the UK, I do believe it's going to be signing up. So I'm waiting to get as many women on as possible to figure out the actual times, because if I have to, I'll make it so everybody can see something live, because I'll just change the times and we'll figure it out. So I don't know times just yet. Everything's done by Zoom. There is no pre-recorded. It is completely live. There are replays. The replays are only available for a week after it ends because of privacy issues of the big stories. Yeah, classes are 1 to 4 hours long, depending on who talks. You don't have to be there. You don't have to whatever. The chat's open. We do sisterhood circle shares. We do, Jacqueline does incredible, amazing, powerful coursework with like slides and all the stuff, because that's just not how I do things. And I love her for that. And then on Fridays, we do the full embodiment exercises. So we do sacred rage screaming. We do ecstatic dancing. We do the Reiki, the hypnotherapy, and I break those things up over the 2-month time period, obviously. Let's see here. Everybody gets psychic messages. Everybody gets hot seat coaching. Everyone gets, there's a forgiveness process we do also. So there's a lot that's happening. There's the signal chat before, during, and after that is open forever. That thing stays open forever unless you delete yourself. And yeah, the program is $1,500 for both months for the whole program, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's an amazing opportunity for people. Mm-hmm.
I had one woman go, "Oh, it's $1,500 a month," and I was like, "No, for the whole thing." She goes, "What?" So the level of safety, content, value, and results is this is a $5,000 program
or more.
And so what I decided to do is every time I offer it from now on, it's going up $500. So the next one will be offered in April. I'm moving it to a 1-month program, which will be weekly, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, instead of bi-weekly. And it's going to go up to $2,000. And then the following time, it'll be $2,500 and on up until it reaches $5,000. So awesome. There are payment plans. I have a 3-month and 6-month payment plan. And I've also been known to go outside of the payment plan options if I feel led to do so. So please do not let money be the reason why, if you feel super called, that you don't think you'd be led on, because I will not turn a woman away if I'm spiritually led to do so. So please, if you feel like it, reach out to me. Our first in-person retreat is in Lake Tahoe, as we discussed. It's in $1 million home right across the street from Lake Tahoe. It's going to sleep 6 women. I'll be able to be available for that. It's fully inclusive. We're going to have a chef and all the things.
When is it in Tahoe?
Yep, in Tahoe. Yep, and that's May 2nd.
In May. Ooh, I'm like, I'm going to put it out into the universe. Is it in South Lake Tahoe or North Lake Tahoe?
You know, it's south.
Okay, I used to live in South Lake Tahoe. So
I can get you the address, but I'm pretty sure it's south. So yeah, and that is $55.55 for all 8 days. And I do have obviously payment plans for that as well. And there will be some discounts if you sign up before the actual. Just today, me and Sarah, this is my VA, my friend, she's like, we need to have something. And I was like, okay, so contact me if you're interested in that, and I'll figure out something that goes early bird special, so to speak, to get you into that. But yeah, we're also available for if you're a coach and you want to, you're like, that's not my area of expertise. Please, we're for hire. We will come speak at your retreats. We'll speak at your webinars and all of your things, all of your classes, and come in. So
yes,
that's availability as well. We're going to have a teenage rage, women's teenage rage. It's possibly going to be done in February or March. That we're going to start as well for women.
Is that online or in person?
That's going to be an online, maybe an in-person at some point. I would like to be having, for that specifically, I would like to be having literally teenagers run those at some point. People put the power in that. Love to do a men's thing as well. At some point, find another man to do that with me. I don't really feel like I want to do that by myself, but yeah. I
have someone that I could connect you with for
that.
Please
do. Yeah.
A male coach who does such things. So yeah, that would be great. Amazing. Yeah. Thank you so much, Tahsha. And we'll put all of that contact information and offer information in the comments below. And thank you for being here today.
Yeah, of course. I love all of you guys. Also, you can go to sisterhoodofsacredfire.com. That's pretty easy to find me. So yes, Nicole, you're amazing. Thank you everyone for listening and for tuning in and the opportunity. I love you all.
Thank you.